Hey there, Paladins fans, my name is Gormizer, and since the console land, I have wanted to talk about Grohk, but I didn't know how exactly to approach it. It was one thing that we got to see out of Elevate. qtShoo specifically was the player I'm thinking of, being able to bring Grohk out and make it work, and at the time it was really only good against a very specific kind of composition, something that you can use CC immunity against, and you had to have the right picks on your team as well to make sure it worked. So it wasn't exactly the perfect example. It was a great loadout, but it required so many things that were necessary to work that it just didn't seem like it was something that needed to be as widespread as it is. Now, however, 1.4 changes have been announced and are going to be coming through relatively soon, and so being able to look at things like, well, the changes to Grohk that they have made, make that loadout a little bit better in my eyes. Not only that, but make Grohk as a champion a little bit better in my eyes. And just being able to look through some of the changes that they've had, there's a lot already on the line. Now, first, I will go through what this loadout is, all the cards that are involved in it. So you already have some interesting card choices with this one. It's a little bit different than what we used to see. What we used to see was a little bit more damage-oriented, and I think that we might end up still seeing that. And I'm actually going to give an example of that loadout a little bit later as well. But if you're looking for someone that is a heal or a CC immunity Grohk, especially with some of the changes that I'm going to jump into, this is probably going to be your best bet. The biggest thing in all of this one is going to have to be Gale 5. Ghost Walk lowers the cooldown of Healing Totem by 5 seconds when activated. It's as straightforward as the card says, right? If you go into Ghost Walk, boom, Healing Totem's cooldown goes down. If you're going to go ahead and be picking up Chronos as well as this, your Healing Totem's going to be up a lot. And again, with some of the changes that we'll look at later, that might make a big difference. Monolith Totem, just being able to give your Healing Totem a little bit more health, make sure it stays alive a little bit longer, makes it a lot easier to keep that down on the point, and increasing the radius of, or the area, of the Healing Totem by 30% from Outreach 3. That one's going to be important, again, just to make sure that that heal gets applied to as many people as possible all around the point. Shamanic Might, health by 300, Crackle 1, those are more kind of flavor. The health by 300 is, again, kind of keeping you alive a little bit longer, allow you to get your Ghost Walk off cooldown again so you can stay alive, get your healing online a little bit more often so you stay alive a little bit more. And Crackle, just increase the duration of Healing Totem, 0.6%. And again, I don't know the math on it, but you're going to get a little bit more healing out of that, especially if you have gone in to go, again, CC immunity, 40% extra healing off of your one talent. That will make a big difference. That being said, this is all current changes. This is all current things, I would say. That really works well with current Grohk, and again, and very specific moments of bliss that I think could make this loadout work well. Some of the changes, however, that are going to be coming through, now is a great time to look at all of them, because I think they are going to make a big difference. Lightning Staff, now going to be able to deal up to 30% increased damage the longer you are on target. I mentioned earlier that we might end up seeing Grohk damage once again, and I think this is part of the reason why. There's also a little bit change to Maelstrom down the bottom. It's not a huge change, but depending on how you want to go, I have a loadout called Palpatine that I'll throw up on the screen now. If you do build something like this with the Lightning Staff increase and Maelstrom on board, you could potentially get a little bit more damage out of it. It's not going to be as much as it used to be. Shock Pulse used to be the big kind of highlight of this, and it still would be, but having that 30% increased damage the longer you are on a target makes a difference. The big key, though, is that you have to stay on the target. It does reward you for having good tracking aim, and body blocks, things like that, can actually disrupt the charge, and if you can't get back to your target quick enough, you lose that damage. Healing Totem now being deployable at 100-foot range is going to make a huge difference. Again, you're looking at CC immunity. That is going to be 100-foot range with, if you go for the specific loadout I mentioned earlier, and you get that Outreach 3, you're going to have 100-foot range to throw out your totem with a 30% increased area. So you're going to be able to provide CC immunity from a little bit of a longer range. You're going to be able to help your team out a little bit more. I think this makes it a little bit more viable to play Grohk, not having to be running into the point to drop the healing down. Being able to deploy it just a little further away is going to make it a little bit easier. Now, there are 3 changes to Tempest, and 2 of them I think make a big difference. The other one I think is hilarious. So increased radius, increased duration. Those 2 I think are probably the biggest important changes. You have a bigger radius, a bigger duration, so that's more damage and heals over a bigger area. So you're going to be able to help your team out a little bit more. You're going to be able to hurt the enemy team a little bit more. It's going to be great. Now grants flight. You get to see Grohk do something, well, something kind of like this.
Hallelujah.
And I don't know about you. I don't see the exact purpose of this just yet. I could see maybe if you have a Willow who's in her ult or a Drogoz who's up in the sky, that Grohk really needs to get up there and get him with the ult, but I'm not sure how much is going to apply. I think this is going to be more used kind of less as a flight and more as a hover. People are going to go up and kind of hover over certain points. I'm thinking Bright Marsh. You're up on the ceiling instead, but because of the increased radius, you're actually able to heal the people that are now standing on the point. If you have this going on, I think this will open up Grohk for some interesting safe ults where you can't kill Grohk out of it immediately, which might make the big difference. That being said, again, I'm looking at very specific points where Grohk is going to have cover to accomplish that. Now, the 2 talent changes that did come through, one of them, again, increased Shock Pulse cooldown, 0.2% increase from 0.3 to 0.5. It's going to come up, or the reduction, sorry. So it's going to be able to come up a little bit more often. You're going to get Shock Pulse off a little bit more often, which again, if you are running some of the older, more damage-oriented loadouts for Grohk, this is probably going to be something that might interest you, but for the most part, I don't think it's going to change too much for it. Spirit's Domain is the big one. Lightning Staff now applies a heal to allies. So you shoot your allies, they get healed. Pretty good. Overall, the healing, it's not enough that you would maybe look for big bursts of healing, but it is going to be a lot of kind of throughput healing. You can heal through a lot of damage. You drop your totem and you shoot them, it's going to be very difficult to take them down. Granted, I have an example here of Cassie bot shooting Fernando bot, and yeah, I kept Fernando bot alive for the most part, but it wasn't really enough that if you add any other burst, you had a Bomb King, you add some Cauterize into this, that it's going to make a big difference. Spirit's Domain, probably going to be fun to be able to play around with, but I don't know how competitively viable it's going to be. I mean, when it comes down to it, anytime you have CC immunity on a single talent, I'm looking at Khan, I'm looking at Grohk, that's usually going to be the talent you want to gravitate toward. That being said, Spirit's Domain still has some interesting effects, and I think it could potentially see some fun play, whether or not it actually comes through as a competitively viable talent. Overall, being able to play with this, I didn't have the best test game when it came down to it, but I did get to see some funny moments. I ended up on a team with 5 supports, and we ended up getting all out healed anyway, so it didn't really matter. Evil Eye fragged us out like it was nothing, but I did see some potential. I think if you actually had a regular team, I think this would be a double support. Grohk is kind of like your off support, similar to how we've had an off tank, where you have him on the side. He's going to be throwing down a totem every now and then, but he's more kind of the hybrid of, I'm going to do a little bit of damage over here, I'm going to do a little bit of healing over here. It's not going to be so much of one or the other that you lose his other role, but you might see him take maybe some more 1v1s or more 2v1s in terms of his damage output versus just sitting back and being the healer everyone expects him to be. Overall, I'd say that this change is pretty interesting. I'm curious to see if he's going to get picked up. More than likely, we might see him a couple times, and again, very niche scenarios on PC, but I expect when it comes down to the console guys, I think they will have a lot more viability for being able to bring out Grohk and make him work. We might see it in some PGS games, we might see it all over the place, you never really know, and I think he's just inside that line of viability where it's not going to be first pick, it's not going to be picked every game, but he's going to be able to come through and find those scenarios where only Grohk can work, and he will make the difference. I honestly think the best way to put it is to just leave it with what the developers had listed as their developer commentary in this beautiful, beautiful edition of the spray. Well, that's going to be it for me and for this video, guys. If you did enjoy it, go ahead and, leave a like, subscribe. Also, in the comments, go ahead and say whether or not you think this Grohk is going to be viable now with the way things have changed, or if you think it's just going to be another kind of pick up and meme around in the casual scene. Is this Grohk going to work, or is he just another kind of offhanded joke when it comes down to it? Go ahead and comment below, and I'll see you in the next video.